Hello everyone, welcome to this video series on number system. Today we'll see some illustrations on prime numbers. This will be a extension of what we have seen in the previous session on number system. So again, to revise the some properties of prime numbers which we had seen in the previous session, I just repeat those once again. That is, the 2 is the lowest prime number and is the only even prime number. This we had seen. Then Fermat's-Newton theorem says that if p, I mean basically if point 2 I can elaborate in detail. Uh, this is a derivation of basically Euler's theorem. This we will see extensively in subsequent lectures and even at greater detail in our discussion on remainders. So Euler's theorem state that if n is in the form of p1 raised to power a into p2 raised to power b into p3 raised to power c, so on. Though so phi of n, which is known as Euler of n, will be nothing but n times 1 minus 1 upon p1 into 1 minus 1 upon p2, 1 upon p3, so on. Right? This is the generic Euler's form. Now, if n is a prime number, so there's no other number than only one number. So in case of prime number, phi of any prime number p will be nothing but p into 1 minus 1 upon p, which is p minus 1 by p, right? We substitute just 1 minus 1 upon p, so this gets cancelled, so this is nothing but p minus 1. So what does this mean in terms of remainder? This implies that any number co-prime to p, any number, say suppose z, which is co-prime to p, so z raised to power p minus 1 upon p will give a remainder of 1, right? This is the basic uh, approach. Now from here we can say that now we can derive this. So basically if we multiply both sides by z, so remainder will be z. I mean this concept we will see in the discussion of remainder. You can just remember this here. So it becomes z raised to power p by p, remainder is z. So we can say that z raised to power p minus z, remainder would be 0. And this is what is given here as Fermat's-Newton theorem. So this is known as Fermat's-Newton theorem. Those of you who did not get this, not to worry, we will see this at many places, even in decimals, then in co-prime numbers, then in remainders. So, but again, how does this come? Just for those who know this, I have shown the derivation and the basic idea behind this Fermat's-Newton theorem. So it says that Z, where Z and P are co-prime, obviously it is co-prime because p is a prime number, so z raised to power p minus z is divisible by p, that is remainder is 0. So this is point number 2. Now point number 3 says Vinson's theorem, if p is a prime number then p minus 1 factorial divided by p leaves remainder p minus 1 as remainder. This also we will see in the discussion on factorials. Then all the prime numbers are of form 6n plus 1 and 6n minus 1. We have seen some illustrations also over this property. Then there is only one set of prime numbers with a gap of 2 between two successive prime numbers, and that set is 3, 5, 7. This also we have seen as an illustration in the previous session. And if p is a prime number other than 2 and 5, then 1 by p is always a recurring decimal with periodicity of p minus 1, right? So this again, I mean in decimal we will see this, that non-recurring decimal, non-recurring terminating decimal is only possible if the denominator has a multiple of only 2 or 5 or a combination of these two. Otherwise, if there is any other prime number p, then it will be a recurring decimal, and periodicity is nothing but p minus 1. How come the periodicity comes? Again by Euler's. From here we know that in case of prime number, the Euler of p is p minus 1, and that becomes the periodicity. So recurring decimal periodicity is p minus 1. This p minus 1 is nothing but the Euler's of p, which is p minus 1, which we had derived here. If you did not get this, just remember for a while in decimals, discussion on decimals, we will see this. Now we'll take some illustrations to drive through the concept which we have seen, and further, some advanced level questions we will see. Now, some of the five prime numbers is given as 560. Then find the smallest of such numbers. So basically, let A, B, C, D, E be the prime number, sum of which is given as 560. Find the smallest of such numbers. Now we know that all the prime numbers are odd except for prime number 2, which is a even prime number. And now there are five prime numbers, right? So if all the prime numbers are odd, then the summation of five odd numbers will be odd, but here it is even. So therefore there must be one even prime number, then only the summation is even, and that even prime number is nothing but the smallest prime number, which is 2. So what is the smallest of such number? Let that this be, let arrange that A less than B less than C less than D less than E. So we can say that A is even and these are odd, right? These are odd. So then only this summation is possible. So A is a even prime number, which is 2. That is the only possible answer. Now we will see question number 2. There are two positive prime numbers such that their difference and their sum. So let the prime numbers be P1, where P1 is greater than P2, right? Let two prime numbers, 2 prime, P1 greater than P2, such that their difference, that is P1 minus P2 and P1 plus P2, these are also prime numbers. So now since, see what happens, we can say for sure that P1 greater than P2, so P1 plus P2 will be even greater than this, and there could be one case where this will be the order in descending order. Now other could be P1 plus P2 for sure will be the largest of all, and P1 being greater than P2 will be again more than this. Now P1 minus P2 can be greater than P2. This could also be one of the case, right? Okay, so these are two possible orders of the uh, seniority of the numbers. Now see, if both P1 and P2 are prime, if both P1 and P2 are prime, say suppose if case 1, both P1 and P2 are odd prime, then P1 minus P2 will be even, and even, and P1 plus P2 will also be even, because sum of two odd numbers and difference of two odd numbers will always be even, and there are no, there's only one even prime number, and here two prime number, P1 minus P2 is given as prime number, P1 plus P2 is also given as prime number. So two prime numbers, two different prime numbers and even, that is not possible. So this is not possible, right? Now case 2, if P1 is odd and P2 is even prime number. Why did I take P2 as even, not P1 as even? Because we know that P1 is greater than P2. So P1 is greater than P2. So, and only one even number is prime number is there, that is 2. And P2 being smaller, so P2 can take only 2 as a possible number, and P1 can take any odd prime number. So here in this case, what will happen? In this case, P1 minus P2 will be odd and P1 plus P2 will be odd. Therefore, this satisfies. So P1 minus P2 can be odd prime and P1 plus P2 can be odd prime. So what happens here? That from here we get that P2 is equal to nothing but 2, right? And now see, that is P2 is 2. So P1 has to be more than P2, and P1 minus P2 will be less than P2. So do we have any prime number which is less than 2? So not possible. This case is not possible. So only this case is possible where P2 is 2. Then there is another prime number which is more than 2 but less than P1 prime number. So if let's suppose this is 3, P1 minus P2 is 3. So this number can be 5. 5 minus 2 is 3 and 5 plus 2 is 7. So 2, 3, 5, 7 is the possible. Yeah. So sum becomes 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7, that is 17 is the answer. I mean, this is not very difficult problem, only the understanding and the comprehension of the problem is required here. Many of the problems on prime number can be solved simply by using the concept of odd and even prime number. Now another question, here it is given that find the sum of all positive n for which 3n minus 4, 4n minus 5 and 5n minus 3 are odd prime. So first let n is odd. First case. So if n is odd, 3n minus 4 will be what? N is odd, so odd into odd is odd minus even is odd. And this is prime. 3n minus 4 is odd prime. Then 4n minus 5, 4 into n is odd. So it becomes 4 into odd is even. Even minus 5 is odd, odd prime. And here 5n minus 3, 5 into n is odd. So odd minus odd is even prime. So only even prime is 2. So 5n minus 3 is equal to 2. This gives n is equal to 1. Now if we substitute n is equal to 1 in 3n minus 4, at n is equal to 1 it gives minus 1, which is not possible, right? So this n is equal to odd is not possible. Case 2, if n is even. So what happens in that case? 3n minus 4, 3 even, when n is even, so this will be even minus even is even prime. Then 4n minus 5, even minus odd is odd prime. Why prime? Because it's given that these three numbers are prime. And 5n minus 3 is what? Even minus odd is odd prime. So here only one case is even prime. So and that will be nothing but 3n minus 4 is nothing but 2. So from here we get n is equal to 2. Substituting n is equal to 2 here, at n is equal to 2 we get 4n minus 5 is equal to 3, and at n is equal to 2, 5n minus 3 is 7. Both 3 and 7 are prime numbers. So n is equal to 2 is the only possible solution, right? So on positive n, only n is equal to 2 is the answer. So summation of will be automatically 2 only. Now the next question is, for how many positive integers y is y square minus 16y plus 60 a prime number? That is y square minus 16y plus 60 is prime number. Now see, this we can write as y square minus 6y minus 10y plus 60. This can further be written as broken into y minus 6 into y minus 10. Now this is prime number, and we know that prime numbers do not have any factor other than 1 or the number itself, right? So it means that one of these two factors must be equal to 1, then only this will be a prime number. So case 1, y minus 6 is equal to 1, y is equal to 7. So at y is equal to 7, the number becomes what? 7 minus 10, which is minus 3, but positive integers, right? So not a possible case. Case 2, when y minus 10 is equal to 1. So from here we can say that y is equal to 11. At y is equal to 11, y minus 6 is 5, right? So 5 is a prime number. So this case satisfies. So therefore y is equal to 11 is the possible solution. This is the answer to this question. A similar problem we will solve here. Here it says that, see, y cube minus 18y square plus 107y minus 210. We know how to solve this sort of problem. In greater detail we'll see when we discuss the concepts on algebra. But since we know that 210, we can factorize this 210. So this is nothing but 2 into 3 into 5 into 7. So this we can write as 5 into 6 into 7, right? So 5 into 6 into 7 is 210, and sum of the roots is 5 plus 6 plus 7 is 18, that is 18. And 2 at a time, if we take 5 6 are 30, 42, 72, and then 35, that gives 107. So 5 6 7 are the root. So this we can break as y minus 5 into y minus 6 into y minus 7. Or you can, to find the roots, you can substitute y is equal to 5 first and then get this factorization. So now, can this be prime number for any value of y? Even if we make, say, y minus 5 1, then also the remaining number has two factors, y minus 6 and y minus 7. So therefore this is not a possible case wherein for no values of y this expression can be a prime number, because even if you make any of the, because prime number only has a one factor, here it is showing three factors. Even if you make one of the factor as equal to 1, there will be two different factors, right? Two different factors. So in that case, therefore it cannot be a prime number. So for no value of y, the expression can be a prime number. This we can deduce. Now we will solve this illustration. Here it is given that y cube minus 7y square plus 20y minus 20, right? If we put y is equal to 2, we get 8 minus 28 minus 20 plus 40 plus 20 minus 20, 0. So y is equal to 2 is a solution. So y minus 2, and then we will see y square. Here it becomes minus 2y square, so minus 5y. So it becomes 10y minus 5y into minus 2, 10y. We require 20y, so plus 10. So factorization becomes y minus 2 into y square minus 5 plus 10, minus 5y plus 10. So this is a prime number. right? So now see what happens. So it can be a prime number if either of these two equations, either this is 1 or this is 1. So let us take case 1. When y minus 2 is equal to 1, this gives y is equal to 3. So at y is equal to 3, what is the value of at y is equal to 3? Y square minus 5y plus 10 is nothing but 3 square is 9 plus 10, 19 minus 15, that is 4. So no, this is not a possible case. 4 is not a prime number, not a prime number. Hence, not a y is equal to 3 is not a possible solution. Case 2, if this number is equal to 1, so y square minus 5y plus 10 is equal to 1. So here it becomes y square minus 5y plus 9 is equal to 0. Do we have any solution to this? The discriminant is 25 minus 36 negative. So y, I mean, for no value of y, this expression would be 0. So again, no solution to this here. So both the cases do not give any possible solution of y. So therefore here also no possible solution. So basically the approach was important. We factorize the expression. We will check the individual components to be equal to 1, because we know if it is to be a prime number, then it cannot be factorized. If it is, there are two factors, one of them must be equal to 1. Equating it to 1, we got that, and therefore we did not find any possible solution. Now we will look into example 6 here. So that says that for how many prime number p are there such that 209 raised to power p plus 1 is a multiple of p. That is, when this number is divided by p, remainder is 0, right? This is what we have to find. So basically, see what we know. I mean, we can directly say this with the format splitting theorem, or we can first apply Euler's. By Euler's, we know that phi of p is p minus 1. So that is, and 209 is a prime number. So 209 is a co-prime to p. So 209 raised to power p minus 1 upon p, remainder is 1, right? Now we will multiply both sides. 209, remainder is here 209, right? So now basically this we can write as 209 raised to power p gives a remainder of 209. So this we can write as 209 raised to power p is nothing but 209p plus remainder of 209. So if we add 1 to both sides, it becomes 209p plus 2010. And now see, this is what we have to find: 209p plus 1 by p, right? So remainder of 209 raised to power p plus 1 by p will be what? 209p plus 210 by p. This will cancel out. So basically it boils down, from here we can say it boils down to remainder of 210 by p. And if this has to be 0, because this is a multiple, so remainder of this should be 0, so that this is a multiple if r is 0. So remainder will be 0 only when 210 is a multiple of p. So how many values p can take? So let us find, factorize 210. 210 is nothing but 2 into 3 into 5 into 7, right? and p is a prime number. So what all values can p take? P can take any one of the value among four prime numbers. So p can take any one value among the four prime numbers, that is 2 comma 3 comma 5 comma 7. So possible values of p, how many prime numbers p can take? That is 2 or 3 or 5 or 7. This is the possible. So basically what we did by Eulers, we know that phi of p is p minus 1, or directly we can say that Fermat-Newton theorem, that 2 raised to 209 raised to power p minus 209 gives, is perfectly divisible, right? I just show that in different ink. So 209 raised to power p minus 209, remainder is 0, right? Sorry, by p. So 209 raised to power p plus 1 minus 210, remainder would be 0. So from here I can say that 209 raised to power p plus 1 by p would be nothing but remainder of 210 by, remainder of 210 by p. That is what we did, remainder 210 by p. So directly from Fermat's Newton theorem we can directly show, but I tried showing by Euler's, so that I mean the very basic concept over which we are working is not neglected here. But both are one and the same thing. Euler's form the basic of all such derivations. Now the last problem we will see, again this is based on the Fermat's Newton theorem. Here it says the largest integer that always divides z raised to power 7 minus z by z, remainder is 0. That is what it's saying. What is the largest integer that always divide this? So I mean this is, remainder is 0. So this will be possible is 0 if z is equal to 7, right? So z is equal to 7 is one solution, or at least z is a multiple of 7. Now another thing what we can write is z minus z, z raised to power 7 minus z. This we can write as z common, z raised to power 6 minus 1. This is z into z square cube minus 1. This further we can write as z into z square minus 1. We can write this as z cube into this. So z cube minus 1 into z cube plus 1. So this becomes z into z minus 1 into z square plus z plus 1, and z cube plus 1 we can write as z plus 1 and z square minus z plus 1. So this becomes basically z minus 1 into z into z plus 1 into z square minus z plus 1 into z square plus z plus 1. So this is a three consecutive number, z minus 1, z and z plus 1. So product of three consecutive numbers, or rather product of n consecutive numbers, is always divisible by n factorial. So product of three number will be divisible by 3 factorial, which is 6. So this is a multiple of 6k, and this was already a multiple of 7. So this term z n n is actually nothing but 6 into 7k, which is 42k. So the largest integer which always divides this n is 42. How come? Because this is divisible by 7, we know. Then only this, because from Fermat-Shaheen theorem we can say z raised to power 7 minus z is divisible by z only when z is a factor of sorry, multiple of 7, right? Now uh, further, after solving this, we can say that this is a product of three consecutive integers. So hence we can say this will also be a multiple of 6. So 7 and 6, the net multiple will be 42k. So therefore 42 is the largest integer which will divide this. So 42 is the answer to this question. So these are a few illustrations on the different concepts of prime numbers. Many more we will see as we move ahead in this number system, in this say on remainders, on HCF, LCM and factors. But this was just, I mean, bare minimum illustrations which we should have seen, so that the concepts, various concepts around the prime number is clear. So hope this was simple enough. Any query, any question, you can just post in the comment box or reach out to us on our website. Thanks for watching this.